Today's Toy Spot, we're having a look at the Hasbro The Amazing Spider-Man Marvel Legends Infinite Series, Marvel's Electro. Another figure from the Build-A-Figure collection where you can build your very own Green Goblin. Interesting that they would call it Marvel's Electro. Perhaps they've lost the rights to use the name Electro, and therefore they have to call it Marvel's Electro. Electro does come with the other arm for the Ultimate Green Goblin. He also does come with an alternate head, which is a nice addition. Still not super keen on the prices that they're charging for these figures. I know at least locally these figures go anywhere from $25 to $27 a piece. An interesting different box though, at least, because unlike it just being a back card, you're actually getting like a open window box. Very similar actually to what we got with the DC Collectibles figures with this open window. I don't know if that would add on to the cost. Certainly if that's the case, I would say go back and just release them on the regular carded setup. And maybe hopefully then, but I mean it seems like they're clearly gearing these towards like the higher end collectors. I really think it's a bad marketing move by charging as much for these, because kids aren't likely going to be getting as many of these for gifts and whatnot when you're looking at a figure that's about $25 to $27. But Spot digresses, because I know I don't want to keep talking about prices. Saying that, I'm sure I'm going to continue to do it in all the reviews, but I'm going to try my best. On the back of the box, the back of the package, it says Marvel's Electro, the electricity-wielding villain, bends high-voltage current at will and has brought New York City to its knees. Be on the lookout for other figures down below if you want to collect the entire lineup and certainly build your own Green Goblin. We've got the Spawn of Symbiotes, Toxin, and Carnage. We've got Marvel's Electro, the Amazing Spider-Man. We've got Spider-Woman and Black Cat. Spot's not quite sure the names of these characters, these individual characters. I think one is Beetle, the Beetle. I don't really know the other name of the guy. But again, why they could not have listed the characters' names down below is beyond me. I just don't know why they couldn't have. And then certainly the last character from this lineup is Superior Spider-Man. What I am going to do is take a break. I'm going to get this opened up, and when we come back, we are going to get a better look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Infinite Series. We're having a look at Marvel's Electro. More heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. With Electro, you'll actually get yourself the alternate arm to what came with the Amazing Spider-Man. Once again, some really nice detailing on the arm itself. I'm sure somebody has already. If they haven't, obviously this would be a great customizable figure to make a Doomsday out of. I know Spot really shouldn't be mixing comic book companies, but to take this arm, you could really do yourself, and to that extent, taking the rest of the figure, you could really make yourself an awesome looking Doomsday. I would love to see somebody actually had done that. It would definitely be a neat looking figure. He does come also with the same flame attachment that came with the other arm. Just kind of latches on. It just kind of clips onto the arm down at the bottom wrist here. A nice effect. I still really, give me a classic Green Goblin any day of the week. But I think if I take myself out of the element and think of myself just as a figure, I think this is going to be a good looking figure, even if I don't like that version of Green Goblin. So moving that out of the way, and having a look at Electro. Something that I was going to be probably immediately disappointed with, luckily is not the case. I thought when getting this guy out of packaging, I thought his hands, I like the electricity on his hands. I think it works, but I was worried that this was going to be the only way we could get this figure, that, when you get him out of box, he's always going to have this. And I thought, oh no, I don't mind things on figures like electricity and fire and stuff like that, but things like hands, I didn't want this to be always the case, that it always was going to have this electricity on his hands. Luckily, he doesn't. It's not just this. He does have interchangeable hands. where you can peg in just a regular socket hand, just a regular closed fist. And you are actually just going to wiggle this arm, wiggle the hand, and just pop it out. But once again, very, very small pegs. That worries me. I don't like the fact that those pegs are so narrow. But you can peg these just into place, just like so, and you've got regular hands on Electro. I like that you've got the variation. If it was just, again, the electricity hands, I would kind of feel disappointed. I like variety. I like being able to decide, okay, if I want the figure just standing, he's not going to have all this extra oomph going on there. So I'm glad that you can switch that out. His head is not... I would say that while this is an Amazing Spider-Man 2 property, really the same thing can be said for Spider-Man, which I've already had a look at. There are versions that are similar to the movie, but I think they're definitely more rooted in the comic books. I don't think the likeness there is there of Jamie Kennedy, or not Jamie Kennedy, Jamie Foxx. It looks like Electro, it just doesn't look like Electro from the movie. And perhaps if we get a Marvel Select Electro, it probably will be a little more to likeness than what we got. This one is the idea of Electro, but just not quite the likeness of Electro. He's got like this really nice blue that's on his wrist. I mean, the wrist right around his arm area here, definitely more suited for the electricity hands than just the regular fist, because it doesn't just quite gel with one another. The stark black of the wrist and the hand doesn't go obviously with the rest of the arm. And he's got this really nice blue that's up here too. Once again, just showing that he has an electrical field, that he's projecting this broad electric light coming from his face and from his hand. So I like that. I like that, because if you had just left this all black, you really would have what ends up being the rest of the figure. The rest of the figure is nicely detailed, but he just doesn't really have a lot of paint. There's just a lot of aspects to it that I like, but it seems like only, aside from his knee, everything else is just black. You've got a few indications here. There's a little bit of silver there, but really the rest of the figure is just black. You can't swap out his head. Just wiggle the head once again, and luckily he's got a much bigger ball joint on the head than he does on the smaller socket of the hands. And you can peg in, just kind of wiggle it here, you can peg in an alternate head, which is more like electricity coming out of his eyes. Again, better suited, I think, for this, because you can kind of just get the overall effect. But I like that you get the little extra bit of details. His head it's not 100% translucent, but it definitely has like a slight translucency to him that you can see if you put a light behind it, he would light up, which is a nice effect. Articulation on Electro. His head does rotate up and down, left and right. And you can see, I'll just move the head up here, you can see that it's on a hinge ball joint. In other words, the ball joint is on an independent hinge, and then on top of that hinge is the ball joint. So you can get a lot of movement in the ball joint, but then the head rotates quite a bit. It also allows you to get poses that you wouldn't normally get from just a straight ball joint. So I like that. His shoulders are on a hinge socket, so once they again rotate out, they kind of just stop here because all these extra plugs, these extra little pieces on his shoulders kind of get in the way. So they only really go to about there, but the arms go forward, back. He has a rotation in the bicep. He has a double bend in the elbow, which is a nice touch. He has a bend and a rotation in the hand. He has a bend upper torso crunch, a rotation in the waist. The legs go forward, back, out. He has a rotation in the thigh, a double bend at the knee, rotation in the boot, bend in the foot. Is he a figure worth picking up? If I wasn't looking at the price, and I was just looking at this just with a completely opened opinion, I would say he's a nice looking figure. If he had just this, I don't like the fact that I would be limited to just always having the figure with his hands posed out. The swapping out of the hands and the swapping out of the head are nice touches. I just don't feel like the figure should be as expensive as he is. And I know Spot doesn't want to really sound like a broken record, but for what these are being charged as, these figures could easily have been about $12, possibly to about $16, $17 tops. They really shouldn't have been anything more than that. Likeness, I don't think, is there really to looking like Jamie Foxx, but then again, we're kind of getting, this is just a general kind of, this is what he looks like in the movie. Likeness maybe not necessarily there. Sculpt-wise is good. Paint could be a little bit more, really from this section down. It's just basically just a shiny black. There's some silver there, yes, but a lot of the details really don't show up because you're not having all this extra paint. This, though, I like. And I like this on the arms. The extra blue light just kind of gives it some depth. Electro, I'm going to give him an 8.5. I'm going to give him an 8.5. I think really the rest of the line of this Marvel Legends is kind of geared more towards the comics. I think if you really are going to get just characters based more so on the movie, then maybe these are the two that you want to be picking up. The other characters aren't necessarily something that you really need, but I mean, certainly as comic book characters go, they are good figures as well. Today's Toy Spot, we're having a look at another figure from the new Marvel Legends Infinite series. We're looking today at Marvel's Electro. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.